You walk into the motor vehicle office expecting the same routine you've experienced for many years: short wait, vision screening, updated photo, and you're finished. But this time, something feels unusual. The questions are changed, the paperwork doesn't look recognizable. The staff member pauses, reviews your file a bit longer than usual, and suddenly you're being informed you need extra evaluation and possibly even medical authorization. Just like that, what should have required 20 minutes becomes hours. And worse, you depart without a renewed license. No advance notice, no preparation, just uncertainty and a growing question in your mind. What changed? Because something has changed. Quietly throughout the nation, new motor vehicle department rules have been implementing. Rules that are catching motorists over 65 completely unprepared. And here's the challenge. Most individuals don't discover this until they're already standing at the service window under pressure with no opportunity to address it. Some are being asked to complete new types of vision assessments they've never encountered before. Others are losing access to online renewals completely. And in certain situations, individuals are being informed they now need a physician's approval just to continue driving. The worst part, one small error, one missing document, one unsuccessful screening, and you could be sent away without your license, stuck in a procedure you didn't even know existed. Hi, I'm June, and today I'm going to walk you through exactly what's occurring so you're not one of those individuals caught unprepared, because this isn't about fear, it's about preparation. In the next few minutes, I'll break down the 3 major rule modifications affecting motorists over 65, explain why they're occurring, and most importantly, show you exactly what you can do right now to avoid delays, extra expenses, or losing your driving privileges altogether. And there's one modification in particular that's surprising many individuals, not because it's new, but because of how much more rigorous it's become. Once you understand that, everything else starts to make much more sense, and it could save you a major headache the next time you walk into the motor vehicle office. Before we get into the first rule, it's important to understand why all of this is occurring in the first place, because without that context, these modifications can feel random, frustrating, even unreasonable. The reality is, they didn't come out of nowhere. Over the past several years, transportation and safety organizations have been monitoring patterns in roadway incidents, and one trend started getting attention. Certain types of collisions were increasing among older motorists, particularly those over 75. Not reckless driving, not speeding, but situations tied to things like reduced peripheral vision, slower reaction time, and difficulty seeing clearly in low light conditions. Now, that doesn't mean older motorists are less safe. In fact, many are far more experienced and cautious than younger motorists. But from a policy standpoint, states began looking at how to reduce risk in very specific scenarios. And that's what led to the modifications you're seeing now. So when you walk into the motor vehicle office and things feel more rigorous, it's not arbitrary. It's part of a broader shift toward more detailed evaluations. And that brings us to the first major rule modification, which is catching more individuals unprepared than anything else right now: enhanced vision screening. Now, if you're thinking, I've been doing vision assessments at the motor vehicle office for years, you're absolutely right. But what's changed is the depth of that assessment. It's no longer just about reading letters or numbers off a chart. In many states, especially for motorists over 65, the screening now goes several layers deeper. They're examining your peripheral vision, how well you can see things off to the side without turning your head. They're measuring depth perception, which affects how accurately you judge distance between vehicles. And there's one category that's becoming especially important: contrast sensitivity. That's your ability to distinguish objects from their background, particularly in low-light situations. Think about driving at dusk, in the rain, or spotting a pedestrian wearing dark clothing at night. You might technically have good vision on a standard chart, but if your contrast sensitivity is reduced, those real-world situations become much more challenging. And that's exactly what these new screenings are designed to detect. Here's where this becomes very real for you. If you don't pass one part of this enhanced screening, you won't necessarily walk out with a renewed license that day. Instead, you may be given a conditional approval, meaning you'll have to schedule a full eye examination with a licensed specialist, have them complete specific paperwork, and submit it back to the motor vehicle office before your renewal can be finalized. That procedure can take weeks. It can involve extra appointments, additional expenses, and a lot more time than most individuals expect. And this is where many individuals run into difficulty. They assume it'll be quick, show up unprepared, and then get stuck in a delay they could have avoided completely. So, here's the practical move that makes all the difference. Don't let the motor vehicle office be the first place your vision gets evaluated. If your license renewal is coming up within the next few months, schedule a comprehensive eye examination ahead of time. Ask specifically about peripheral vision and contrast sensitivity. If there's a concern, you'll have time to address it, whether that's updated lenses or treatment before it becomes an issue at the counter. That one step alone can turn a stressful, uncertain experience into a smooth, predictable one. And if you're finding this helpful so far, make sure you're following along because these kinds of updates can change quickly, and staying ahead of them is what protects your independence. Now, as impactful as this vision rule is, it's only the first piece of the puzzle. The second modification is the one that's quietly reshaping the entire renewal procedure. And for many individuals, it's turning what used to be simple into something far more demanding. The second rule modification is where the experience really starts to shift. And for many individuals, this is the moment where a routine renewal turns into something much more time-consuming and frankly frustrating. For years, many motorists got used to the convenience of renewing their license online or through the mail. No lines, no waiting rooms, no rearranging your entire day. But for motorists over 65, that convenience is disappearing in a growing number of states. More and more states are now requiring in-person renewal once you reach a certain age. And in some places, that doesn't just mean showing up. It also means doing it more often. Instead of renewing every 8 years, you might now be required to renew every 4 years or even every 2. That's a major shift, especially when you factor in travel time, wait times, and the energy it takes to go through the entire procedure. And it's not just about being physically present. When you walk into the motor vehicle office now, you're expected to come fully prepared, and the margin for error is smaller than it used to be. You'll typically need multiple forms of identification: your current license, proof of residency, like a recent utility bill or bank statement, and sometimes additional documents like a social security card or passport. And here's where individuals get tripped up. What counts as acceptable proof can vary. Something as simple as bringing the wrong type of document can mean getting turned away and having to start all over again. But there's another layer to this that most individuals don't realize, and it's one of the biggest reasons this rule matters so much. During in-person renewals, motor vehicle office staff are now trained to make informal observations. They're not just processing paperwork, they're paying attention. They're noticing how you move, how you respond to questions, whether you seem confused by instructions or if you're having difficulty completing forms. It's subtle, but it's intentional. If something raises concern, they have the authority to require additional steps before approving your license. That could mean taking a road assessment even if you haven't taken one in decades. It could mean getting medical authorization from your physician. In some situations, it could even mean restrictions placed on when or where you're allowed to drive. Now, this isn't about catching individuals unprepared, it's about assessment. But if you don't know what's happening, it can feel exactly like that. So here's how you stay ahead of it. Treat your motor vehicle office visit like something you prepare for, not something you squeeze into your day. Bring every required document in an organized folder. Give yourself extra time so you're not rushed or stressed. Answer questions clearly and take your time filling out forms. And if you use any kind of mobility support, a cane, a walker, use it confidently. It's far better to be seen moving safely than struggling without assistance, because when you approach it prepared and composed, the entire experience changes. You're no longer reacting, you're in control. Now, as impactful as this second rule is, the third one is where things become much more personal. This is the rule that's creating the most confusion, the most delays, and in some situations, the most difficult decisions. Because now, it's not just the motor vehicle office evaluating you, it's your physician. In a growing number of states, motorists over a certain age, often 70 or 75, are now required to submit medical certification as part of their license renewal. And this isn't just a quick note saying you're in good health. This is a detailed state-issued form that your physician has to complete addressing specific aspects of your physical and cognitive condition and how they relate to your ability to drive safely. They're examining things like diabetes, especially if there's a risk of low blood sugar episodes, cardiovascular conditions such as a history of heart concerns or stroke, neurological concerns including memory issues or early cognitive decline, sleep disorders, medications that may cause drowsiness, even anxiety, or pain treatments that could affect reaction time. It's thorough and it's taken seriously. And here's the key point. Your physician is legally and ethically responsible for what they put on that form. That means they're not going to simply sign off unless they're confident in your ability to drive safely. If they have concerns, they're required to document them, and that can lead to additional steps, restrictions, or closer monitoring from the motor vehicle office. This is where many individuals feel blindsided. Maybe you've been managing a condition for years without any issues. Maybe you feel perfectly capable behind the wheel. But if something on that form raises a flag, your renewal procedure can suddenly become much more complicated than expected. So the smartest way to handle this is to be proactive. Don't wait until the motor vehicle office tells you that you need medical authorization. If your state requires it, or even if you're not sure, schedule a dedicated appointment with your physician ahead of time. Let them know exactly what the form is for. Give them the space to evaluate properly and have an open, honest conversation about your driving. If they do have concerns, don't treat it as a dead end. Ask questions. Find out what specifically can be improved or managed. In many situations, there are solutions. Adjusting medication timing, updating vision prescriptions, or simply limiting driving to certain conditions like daytime hours. The goal isn't to take away your independence. It's to preserve it safely for as long as possible. And when you approach it that way, this procedure becomes far less intimidating and far more manageable. Now, before you start worrying that all of these rules apply to you exactly as we've described them, there's something important you need to understand, and this is where much confusion comes from. These modifications are not identical across the country. Every state runs its own motor vehicle department system, which means the details, how rigorous the vision assessment is, when in-person renewal is required, whether medical certification applies, can vary depending on where you live. In one state, you might not face any of these modifications until age 70. In another, they could start at 65. Some states require medical forms only under certain conditions, while others make it a standard part of renewal after a certain age. And then there are states that haven't fully implemented these rules yet, but are moving in that direction. So if you've heard someone say, "I just renewed my license and none of this happened," they might be telling the truth, but they might also be in a completely different state with different requirements. That's why relying on secondhand information can get you into difficulty. What matters is not what's happening broadly. It's what applies specifically to you. And once you understand that, the next step becomes very clear. You don't guess. You don't assume. You verify. Because the individuals who run into problems at the motor vehicle office are usually the ones who walk in thinking it'll be business as usual. The ones who don't check ahead, the ones who assume they'll figure it out when they get there. And by that point, it's too late to address anything quickly. So, let's talk about what actually works. What you can do right now to make sure your next renewal goes smoothly from start to finish. First, go directly to your state's motor vehicle department website or call their official number. Look specifically for license renewal requirements based on your age group, not general renewal rules, your age group. If anything is unclear, call and ask. And when you do, write down exactly what they tell you, including the date and the name of the person you spoke with. That way, you're not relying on memory or guesswork. Second, give yourself time, more time than you think you need. A good rule is to start preparing at least 3 to 4 months before your license expires. That gives you room to schedule appointments, gather documents, and handle any unexpected requirements without pressure. Waiting until the last minute is where most of the stress and mistakes happen. Third, organize everything in advance. Put your documents in one place. Your current license, proof of residency, social security documentation if required, and any medical or vision paperwork. Use a folder, label it clearly, and keep it somewhere easy to access. It sounds simple, but this one step alone can save you from making multiple trips. Fourth, if there's any chance you'll need a vision examination or medical authorization, schedule those appointments early. Don't wait until the motor vehicle office tells you. You want those results ready before you even walk in. And if this is helping you think a step or two ahead, consider sharing this with someone else who might be going through the same thing. Many individuals are walking into this procedure unprepared simply because no one told them what changed, because once you take these steps, everything shifts. You're no longer reacting to surprises, you're anticipating them. You're walking into the motor vehicle office knowing exactly what's expected with everything you need already in hand. And that's the difference between a stressful experience and a smooth one. But there's one more piece to this that matters just as much as preparation. And it's something most individuals don't talk about until they're forced to face it. It's the emotional side of all of this, and what these modifications really mean when you step back and look at the bigger picture. Now, let's talk about the part that doesn't show up on any motor vehicle department form, but matters just as much as everything we've covered so far. Because for many individuals, this isn't just about paperwork or policies, it's about independence. It's about the freedom to go where you want when you want without relying on anyone else. And when new rules start making that feel uncertain, it's completely natural to feel frustrated, even a little uneasy. If you've been driving safely for decades, it can feel like these modifications are questioning your ability, your experience, even your judgment. You've followed the rules, taken care of your vehicle, maintained a clean record, and now suddenly there are extra steps, extra scrutiny, extra hoops to jump through. That reaction is real and it's valid, but here's the other side of it, and it's just as important to acknowledge. Driving has always come with responsibility, not just for yourself, but for everyone else on the road. And as conditions change, whether it's vision, reaction time, or health, those responsibilities don't go away. They become more important. What these new rules are really trying to do at their core is reduce risk before something serious happens. Not after, before. And while the procedure may feel inconvenient, even frustrating at times, the intention is to keep individuals safe, including you. And here's something that doesn't get said often enough. For some individuals, these evaluations will reveal that certain adjustments need to be made. Maybe it's avoiding night driving, maybe it's sticking to familiar routes, or in some situations, having an honest conversation about whether it's still safe to be behind the wheel at all. That's not a failure. That's wisdom. That's experience. That's knowing when to adapt in a way that protects you and everyone around you. Because the reality is the consequences of overlooking those signs can be far more serious than any motor vehicle department requirement. And the individuals who handle this transition best are the ones who approach it with awareness, not resistance. So instead of seeing these modifications as something being taken away, think of them as something you can navigate with the right preparation, the right mindset, and the right information. And that brings us back to where we started. The difference between walking into the motor vehicle office confident and walking out confused often comes down to what you knew before you got there. Now you know what's changed, you know what to expect, and more importantly, you know exactly what to do next. Take a few minutes today, just a few, and check your state's requirements. Look at your license expiration date. Start preparing early if it's coming up soon. Get your documents in order. Schedule any appointments you might need. Do it now while there's no pressure, because when the time comes, you won't be guessing, you won't be scrambling, you'll be ready. And that's how you protect not just your license, but your independence, your confidence, and your peace of mind every time you get behind the